What's the good word? DKB here. So, is Carl Lawson our best edge rusher since John Abraham? That's what we want to dive into today. So, let's break it down. And, coming off our week 5 victory, we're flying high. We're 3-2. We're second place in our own division. We're fifth place in terms of the immediate playoff hunt right now. We're flying up in the NFL power rankings. I've seen us as high as 12 across the board, though. It looks like we're slotted around 16th. So we're starting to garner and get that respect across the NFL. And this hasn't necessarily happened since the days of Rex Ryan for us. So Carl Lawson is a huge piece of what we expected to help shift us into this movement we're kind of seeing now. And, John Abraham legitimately was one of our best defensive players when it comes to getting after the quarterback. And we've had some players that have had some key defining moments in their career for us, but it's kind of faded out pretty quickly. Muhammad Wilkerson is probably one of the best that we've seen since then, and he was playing as a 3-4 in, which historically you don't see stats like that for. So that was an impressive season all on its own, and I want to say he got 12 and a half sacks, but I think realistically it was 10 and a half. Either way, he did crack the double-digit mark, but Carl Lawson just had a historical performance for the New York Jets at his position. I mean, 7 quarterback hits. The most previous for us before was 5. That was tied between Leonard Williams, who looked like he could have been a revelation for us, and then Muhammad Wilkerson, same situation, but they kind of fizzled out quickly, or at least they didn't really live up to the billing of where we necessarily slotted them at, and kind of understanding what would have came with that. Aside from that, though, one of the other stats I dug up was that his 7 quarterback hits were the 6th best in NFL history, which is absolutely crazy. It lets you know this player, and he's even said himself in some recent interviews, he's not 100%. Robert Saleh still mentioned that he's kind of gearing up and he has a second level to get to, and so it's crazy to think that he'll still get even that much better, and you can see his comfort level definitely starting to increase out there on the field. I think there's a little bit more hesitancy in him trying to get a feel for how he was going to string some of his moves and attack opponents and his pass rush, and then fitting in of course, with this defensive line rotation that we're activating, which isn't something that's common for him. So what does this mean for us? He's coming off historical performance, yes, but we've seen him slowly ramp up now for 5 weeks, much like we've seen with our defense as a whole. But much like it's true with any other position, you think of like the Cowboys and Michael Parsons, you find a way to get great edge rushers on the field for one. Two, you can see how transformational it can be to have somebody that can go out there and wreck a game plan all on his own. And it's enlightening that he's starting to see it get done in one-on-one matchups, as well as, being able to contribute in some of the double team situations and things that they're going to throw out there, extra tight end assistance. He's starting to fill his way back up there into being elite. And the last edge rushers we even legitimately seen, and these names are crazy to even bring back up, that maybe consistently could at least get pressure or quarterback hits, was Quentin Coples and Lorenzo Malden. And where both of those guys at now, most likely they're probably back in college, hopefully trying to make something of their career with whatever that looks like. But much like a bunch of our other first picks and, second, third round selections, those guys are in thin air somewhere and not even close to touching an NFL roster, let alone, being on a practice squad somewhere, which is unfortunate. But in the realm of where we're at currently, we absolutely need this. With this defensive line rotation, everything was kind of hinged on the fact that Quentin Williams will break out, Carl Lawson will return to form and kind of become and evolve a little bit more, potentially the player that we're seeing now. I mean, legitimately, the biggest thing left that people can criticize is the fact that he's still not necessarily hitting home. 7 sacks is great. 7 quarterback hits is great, but converting even a fourth of those into sacks would be, optimum for us. But keep in mind, he has 2.5 sacks on the season, which is right up there with Quentin Williams and stuff. So he's working his way in there, and you get the feeling that he's just waiting to explode and have one of these crazy games where, he might get 3 sacks before halftime. I'm a true strong believer in it, and he's kind of working through his process, as he said as much. So it's a matter of him still getting that consistency, working out some of the kinks, keep in mind he's essentially on like a 2-year layoff. So between the defensive line rotation and him not just being able to go out there for 100% of the snaps, and then filling his way back, there was going to be some fall off a little bit, but he's essentially in rare form right now. I mean, again, you convert 1 or 2 of these quarterback hits a game into sacks, and you're looking at a much different ball game. He easily can be touching close to 7 or 8 sacks so far. So I would definitely say he's potentially our best guy. I mean, we haven't had a whole lot of success. Calvin Pace, and he didn't play a true edge position, but he was one of the next best, kind of pass rushers that we had on this roster since John Abraham. And, he touched anywhere between 8.5 and maybe 10 in a season pretty consistently. But that was in the Darrelle Revis area where we had Cromartie and we're picking up Kyle Wilson, and, we had safeties roaming the backfield like LaRon Landry. So a lot of this stuff that we were seeing before was coverage sacks, and in this case, we're seeing Carl Lawson go and make things happen on his own. So currently, he's sitting second best among edge rushers, specifically edge rushers with 14 quarterback hits on the season, to let you know kind of where he's at in comparison. And he's 11th in total pressures with 19 on the season. So I'm definitely still expecting a breakout, and I would even say once we see that first breakout game, he might go on a little bit of a killing spree there for a bit, for 2 or 3 weeks. But I think it's clear that he's definitely our best. Pairing him with Quinnen, where they can feed off of each other, was absolutely one of the best ideas, and I think seeing their success is also kind of rubbing off on a lot of others. Bringing Bryce Huff back into the rotation a little bit more was definitely a smart move as well. And you're seeing other players that we've acquired kind of round things out. Jermaine Johnson II is looking good and at least contributing for a late first-round pick that has a huge upside ceiling. We're seeing Sheldon Rankins step up. Pretty much everybody has left their mark on this defensive line outside of Nathan Shepard and probably Jacob Martin to a certain degree, although at least you can see that he's winning a lot of his matchups. He just isn't necessarily hitting home either. So either way, I would fully say that John Abraham could pass the torch to Carl Lawson for us. We'll see how it works out. We can get out of the contract if we need to after this season. There's also the question of what do we do in terms of an extension if he does have a breakout season and finally pretty much makes good on all of those pressures that he really gets. Keep in mind, we signed him from the Bengals coming off a 64 pressure season. So in any event, the guy is great. So let me know what your guys' thoughts are on Carl Lawson so far. Would he be worth a further investment if he can end up becoming the pass rusher we expected? Or is he a guy that you would rather wait and see and, maybe play out that final year? Or do we need to try to move on and hope Jermaine Johnson II develops and, maybe we pick up some further pass rush help in the first round? But I'll catch you guys again. Peace.